All right. We are ready to call the meeting to order.
I'll call the meeting to order at 10:25? 11:25, correct. 11:25. And stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so roll call. Camille.
Here.
Robin.
Here.
And Gail is absent. Excuse.
Okay, now I do this part.
Yep.
Statement of public notice.
This meeting was noticed in accordance to the open meeting law.
Public comment. Doesn't appear to be anybody here for public comment. Approval of minutes from June 27th, 2018. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
I guess I will second. Chairperson's report. There is none, so we will move on to unfinished business. And there is nothing there, so we will move on to new business.
All right. So this is seemingly a little backwards, but just so that you know, coming up at Tuesday's meeting, one of the things that I'm going to be doing is giving a report to the full board with an update for the 2018 action plan. I just wanted you guys to know so that if there's any questions about what's currently happening with the action plan, where we are with things, everyone's going to hear about that on Tuesday. So that's coming up.
Okay.
So this is a draft of the 2019 action plan, and there are a couple things that I did. So first, I looked at the 3-year strategic plan that we have, and whatever hasn't been on the first 2 years on the 2017 or 2018 action plan is now on this action plan. And then additionally, based on some trends that we've seen or new things that we've been wanting to try, there are some new things added as well. But just to give you a summary, because this is helpful for my own, there are 12 main goals to this to the strategic plan. The big bold headers. One main goal is not going to show up here in the 2019 action plan because it was the children's area, so I've removed that one. But I did add a main goal, which is the strategic planning process, because that's certainly going to take a lot of time and effort. So you'll see a new main goal that has not shown up in the strategic plan. So just as a frame of reference, action items, which are basically the little subunits underneath the main goals. In 2017, there were 43. In 2018, there were 48. And currently, there are 50 action items in the 2019 plan.
Okay.
And my goal wasn't necessarily to increase it or decrease it. I like to keep it in it seems like the 40 to 50 range seems like something that is the capacity for us to achieve. And certainly, if there are bigger projects, that action item feels a lot bigger and there may be less. But if there are smaller action items, then maybe there's a few more added. So that's sort of where that range is. I didn't try to keep increasing because that is untenable, but it just ends up being 50 action items for 2019.
Okay.
So I can run through each of these hashtags if you want me to. Otherwise, I can just highlight a few of the ones that seem maybe big or new. What would be the most, or if you just want to ask any questions from each section, that can work too.
Well, I had read through them. It seems pretty cut and dried. So if you want to just highlight what you feel are the stronger focus, that works for me.
So we are excited to continue. We're getting some of the great room furniture. So, the furniture is old out there. Those gross couches. And so there was already money for this year in the capital budget, and so that furniture is coming in November. We're really excited to make that space more welcoming for patrons, and we were able to get more funding for more great room furniture, and so that's going to continue because really we were able to get a few nice pieces, but we weren't able to fully flesh out that space, so I'm looking forward to that. We are continuing with the planning phase of the young adult area redesign. So that was one of the funding areas that we weren't able to get for 2019. it was a little bit early. I tried to push it earlier in the plan. Originally, Pete had planned it, I think, for 2020. It didn't work, and because of the city needing to defer some projects to make space for other projects, they were deferring in 2019 and 2020. But I don't want to lose momentum on this, and there's still a lot of planning that we can do, and we're going to be doing some needs assessments. We're going to be talking to teens, getting testimonials from them, getting their feedback. So it may be in some ways a blessing in disguise because we can really continue to gather information, use the 2019 strategic plan to maybe get a teen focus group, something like that. So that I think will be fun. But so that process is going to continue. Yeah, so those are some of the big ones in facilities. In terms of the physical and technological improvements, I just wanted to point out that Elka had gone to WLA and she had gone to a lot of really amazing sessions. And one of the topics they were talking about was virtual reality and the different ways for programming, including for seniors, which I thought was really cool. Like what you can take seniors places. Maybe they physically can't go somewhere, but you can use that virtual reality technology.
Okay.
So we're going to look into what we can do to run programs for that.
Well, that's cool.
So.
My mother knew about that.
Let's see here. The Explore RFID, that was one of the projects that also got pushed. It was potentially going to be in 2020, and now it's going to be at least in 2021. So, that's something that I'm still going to be analyzing. And also just making sure it's still the most relevant technology. It's a big investment, both in staff and in money. And so, just in case there's something new coming out on the horizon, I want to make sure that we're on top of that. I'm going to skip down to services. A lot of this is the stuff that we're continuing because it's working and we like it, so we definitely want to continue that. Regarding teen services, we're taking a really intentional step to re-envision teen advisory. So right now we're having a lot of planning sessions to sort of figure out where are the teens in the community, where can we meet them, and how can we get them to us. And we have a couple of passive ideas, but we have a couple of intentional programs. So we're working with Amanda, Elka, and myself, and we're really excited. I think we have some cool new ideas to make the teens excited about the library and get our word out to them in the schools.
How do you feel about it right now with the teens? Because I know in this community it's so difficult because there isn't like a teen center or, I know that when my kids were in school, they had the different like teen centers, they called it, at the middle school and stuff like that. But stuff for them to do here is such a challenge.
And I think I really like the programs that we're coming up with. But the teens are actually really busy.
I guess.
I mean, everyone is.
There's
and so, what we're trying to figure out is, in the summer, there's a lot of traffic. Okay. But during the rest of the year, it tends to be a little bit slower until after school, and then they come in a lot for studying. Mm-hmm. So we're just trying to figure out, we can't change their patterns of behavior necessarily.
Right.
But if we know they come in a lot after school, what can we provide them for after school to support their after school activities? So we're looking at that very closely. And maybe we have to go to the schools for a while until we become very visible to them to help, draw them here. So we're sort of looking at that right now. But people's schedules are just busier than ever.
It's crazy.
I think we look at teen programming in the library community in general differently than you would look at children's programming. You have to approach it differently because they have different schedules. They have different, they don't have caregivers who are bringing them to a story time. So it's, So, obviously we would love to continue to increase our teen, involvement and teen input in the library, and we're making some very intentional efforts to do that. So we're excited.
I like the STEAM thing because of what that offers, because that's such an important part to everything. How is that received here?
Really well.
Good.
And actually, really that is large in part, I think, to obviously the school district is very powerful here and very, I don't want to say award-winning, maybe it is, but top-notch. I know that it gets very high marks. I was looking at the WISE Dash, and the kids are just getting great grades. And so the schools are totally in on this too, and they're incorporating it. And Tony has all these fab labs and after school programs. I visited Baylane and I was talking with her about it. And so we had some teens come to a maker we had kids come to a maker program, and I was helping because they needed extra set of hands, and they were these snap circuits. Kids come over, and I was about to say to them, let me show you how to use this, and the kid's like, oh, I know how to use this, thank you, step aside. Aside.
Wow.
They're already there, and so they're excited for the continued opportunities and to work with other kids, but it's kind of like technology. There's a base level they already have, and so we can just build on that, and that's really cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I wonder if there could be like leadership where they teach the younger ones.
Yeah,
They like that kind of.
I love that idea, and actually we've been experimenting. One of the things we've been talking about with Amanda is how to potentially get teen groups in here to do events. We were going to have the teen robotic group in, but they end up having to cancel last minute, so we would love to have them back again because they were going to do one of the STEAM things for the children, the teens. So,
or DI, Destination Imagination.
Oh, sure, yeah, that's true.
And that's all ages.
That's a good point. Yeah, and they meet here.
Cool.
So we are going to be investigating potential expansion of deposit collections. There are additional senior living facilities like Heritage that's coming in, and so it's I think important for us to evaluate. We have certain services that we're offering to certain senior facilities. Currently, do we have the capacity to do that? I don't know. We'd have to analyze what that would take, but I think it's important for us to take that step and see what we can do for those other communities. So
I know that they just incorporated at Caring Alternatives where they have books that they can check out through the activity director.
Oh, great.
So I'm not sure where she's getting the books from.
Sure.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, and some places build their own collections, and then they don't maybe need us.
Right.
And some places like to get the delivery. So Heritage and I have been talking. We need to meet again to see what the library can do for them.
Yeah.
So. Let's see here. These are pretty standard. I'm going to flip to packet page 6. We want to continue to look at ways on how we can evaluate the adult movie and documentary screenings. They haven't, at least initially, gained as much traction as we were expecting. So, there's always new ways to market things. So we're just going to continue to see what we can do there. Obviously, school visits and partnerships with the community continue to be incredibly important to us, and so we want to continue to have our librarians go out into the schools and maintain connections with the school librarians. And that's really important. We've been doing a lot of visits to the daycares recently, and that's really great. They're getting to know us, and it's exciting when they come in and they recognize the staff then. I'm flipping to page 7. Okay, on time. Okay, good. For advocacy and whatnot, I'm going to continue to remain focused on this public library system redesign process. They're entering the final, I think, couple of months of it, and depending upon what report they write to the DPI and then what the DPI does next, I have no idea, but we need to follow it very closely because it could change the structure of our system, and the system is where we get many of our services and how we are structured and how we lend and connect with other libraries. So I have no idea at this point what could happen. It could be a flip of a coin, really.
Now, I had participated in the Library Legislative Day 2 years ago, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. So if,
Yeah, I would love to go. Last year, I panicked, or this year, because it was the same day as a library board meeting.
Okay.
And the thought of going to Madison all day and then coming back for the library board meeting, I don't know if it was maybe in the middle of the children.
It is a long day,
Yeah.
because you do get a lunch break in there, so it is a long day, but I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Well, I vow to go this year. I wanted to keep it in here because I know it's important, and
So
I know
Erin and I went, but it was opened up to all the library board members, whoever wanted to go,
Yeah.
and so Erin and I had signed up to do it, and we went with Pete, so
Well,
I would throw it out to, it's really interesting.
yeah. I'll definitely make a plug, and
Because that's in February, right?
it's in February.
Yeah.
So
It's always on a Tuesday, and it always
Is it always
coincides
okay?
with the
But now I
library
know
board
things. I have a year under my belt.
I'm trying to remember. Did we come back
Yep.
and have a library board
Yes, you
meeting?
did.
Okay.
I was like, I can do anything.
So maybe plan on moving the library board
Maybe we
meeting
do that
by a
if
week
it-
or
yeah.
something
Sure.
like that.
Yeah.
We were so lucky. It was a 70-degree day in February. It was like it
Oh.
was perfect to go. It was it was one of those unbelievable winter days. Like what?
You have no excuse not to be there.
Yeah, but it was. I highly recommend any of the board members who want to go. It really was. It was really satisfying
Yeah.
to me because we met Chuck Wickers. Well, I knew Chuck before, but
Sure.
went to his office, went to David Craig's office, and
Nice.
met with them, and
Right.
it was just really awesome.
Cool. I'll make sure that that's an opportunity that we all have. Let's see here. And so the new big goal that I was talking about is here at the bottom, which is execute a strategic planning process, gathering data and insight from stakeholders to inform the creation of the 2020-2022 Muskego Public Library Strategic Plan. And I broke that down into basically 4 groups, which is collect and analyze statistics, to analyze demographic and patron usage trends, collect the patron feedback through focus groups, one-on-one interviews, testimonials, and a community survey, consolidate that information and build a report, and then build a 2020 action plan based on that strategic plan. So all of those things are going to happen in 2019, and I can talk about that in greater detail once we flip the page. But this is the 2019 action plan. I've shared it with the staff already, so they have an awareness of it, and we believe it's feasible. I'm excited for some of the new things in there, and I'm excited to close out the 3-year strategic plan that you all built with Pete. So, any questions about the 2019 action plan?
Looks pretty cut and dry to me.
Yeah, that's good.
All right. So then, if it's okay with you all, then I will bring this before the full library board on Tuesday for approval, so that we can get it published.
Okay.
Excellent. All right. So then, the 2020-2022 Strategic Planning Framework, which is a mouthful. I need to come up with like a code word for it, like Falcon or I don't know, Rising Sun, something like that. Too many words. Okay, so this framework obviously has it is what it is. It's a framework, and I wanted to take this process, which will have many details, and just break it down into I think the highest parts. So the timeline. First, I met with the staff to discuss it, and we brainstormed ideas. Next is to meet with you all and have you review it. Then the next step in this timeline is to present the 2019 action plan to close out the last plan, and then present this framework to the library board. I'm kind of thinking I'm going to do it in December instead of November, only because we have a lot to do at the November meeting.
Yeah, because we have your review.
Exactly, and the 2019 action plan, and we have to look at the that salary study. The council finally approved it, so I need approval from the library board, and we all want to get out on time.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to.
Okay, you're okay with that too? Perfect. All right, so then I'll make that December. And the 2018 action plan update. Yeah, it's going to be great. So the data collection period, my plan, I've talked to a lot of library directors and asked them, what did they think was an appropriate amount of time to collect data. And so January to April, I think, is at the long end of what we'll need. So obviously there's flexibility there. If I realize that I'm not getting survey responses or the focus groups, there's nothing to stop us from extending it as needed, but presuming that the data collection goes well. That's sort of the time frame I'm envisioning. Then the data analysis and report writing would be April through October, or as needed. If we really write a quick report, then great. And then no later than November 19th, the strategic plan report would be presented to the full library board. And then, because, it's really important, I didn't want to have everyone vote on it. I wanted a nice discussion about it. So then at the December meeting, it would be voted on.
So we're going to be talking about it next meeting, but then voting is on December.
So November 2019.
This is 2019.
Yeah. So, sorry, we're going through the full,
Gotcha.
yeah.
So I was confused.
Yeah, so the strategic plan report, once I finish it in October 2019, or no later then, I'll present at the November 19th. There can be lots of great discussion. I'm sure things will come up where we want to talk, make some edits, so then I can make those edits and then present the, hopefully the final version at the December 17th meeting for a formal vote to approve it, and then it will be implemented starting in January 1st. So,
Okay.
so yeah, full year of fun. Resource documents, so one of those things I mentioned in the 2019 action plan is that there are a lot of resource documents that I know were used in the previous strategic plan, and it's just good to look at trends and what our community looks like. And so, looking to the past to inform on the future, so certainly I'll be looking at the 3-year strategic plan to see what we've been working on, and the action plans. The sixth edition? Yeah, I think the 6th edition of the Wisconsin Public Library Standards have come out. And that's going to be really helpful for us because basically it's a huge checklist that the DPI came out with that said, libraries, this is what you maybe want to aspire to. It's not a requirement to be certified or keep our public library status, but it's something that where they said, libraries of your size should be able to achieve this tier of services. And if there are gaps, maybe you want to look at that and see, is this something that our community needs? And maybe it's not, maybe it is. But it'll be a really good, I think, checklist for us to go through and see if there's anything we're missing that maybe our peers are doing.
Okay.
The census data for Muskego, the DPI data, so the WISE Dash for schools and library trends data that the DPI collects. Our state annual reports, so if we can look at our own usage trends, our Bridges statistics that we get. We still have, thankfully, everyone was really good about record keeping, and we do have the WILS strategic planning process from 2016, and so that framework will help us because I do think it helped create a really solid strategic plan, and so certainly hoping to pull from that and see if there's any inspiration there. And then there is an EDGE assessment that we're not going to formally do because it costs like $1,500.
What does EDGE stand for?
Ooh, I don't know the answer to that. But I know it's like basically it's a demographics analysis of libraries, and you can answer all these questions, and it puts you into categories compared to other libraries.
Okay.
But I do think the Wisconsin Public Library Standards can help us achieve that same thing. And the EDGE assessment will just give us, it just asks a lot of questions about libraries that, again, we can sort of say, I never thought, should we be asking this of ourselves in terms of service and programs? So,
What, you said it costs $1,500?
yes, to formally do it. Like, you can look at all the questions, but if we wanted to actually be placed in accordance to where we rate compared to other libraries, we'd have to pay. And I don't think that's necessary. They did it 3 years ago, so we have that data. So
And
maybe
we didn't pay for it.
That's true, it
last
was
time.
free.
It was a free trial run before this was implemented at cost.
Okay.
So we lucked out.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if we decided it was of value, that would be something maybe I'd recommend like every 9 years, once. It's only 3 years old, that data, so given that we have so much other data that we can work with, it's not something that I'd want to do every 3 years. I think that'd be kind of costly.
Okay.
So those are all documents that we can use to help before we even talk to people. It's just really good data that we can use to help us identify, like, what groups do we want to talk to? Where are we seeing issues? How is the community doing? What are our patrons telling us through their behavior patterns? The format report, at least initially I was thinking that it would be similar to the previous plan. I really like how it's set up. I thought it was really clear and easy to read. That was one of the things that I was so excited about when I was here presenting to the library board initially for my interview. I was thinking, so there were 3 categories: facilities, services, and communication and outreach. And really that covers, I think, the breadth of, where libraries should be looking at as they're assessing themselves. I was thinking potentially about adding a 4th category, a long-range funding outlook, just to analyze funding sources and, make sure that I don't know quite what that section will look like yet, but it just seems important to potentially be thinking of strategically. But the other thing to think about is that these 3 groups, facilities, services, and communication and outreach, they only came about after all the data was collected. So last year, they pulled all the data together and then said, what are 3 categories that sort of rise to the top that we can organize everything under? So, and I don't think we need to commit to this, but basically, I think odds are these 3 categories will stay pretty strong. But there is the potential that a new category could rise up.
Sure.
So that's just something to think about. I think it would have to be a pretty strong category that would cover a lot of things. I think most things will fit into these 3, but it's just...
I do too. I like the way that they're titled. I had worked on the strategic planning for the chamber, and yeah, 3 is a good number to have, and usually you can, whatever it is that you're looking to achieve can go under one of those categories.
Yeah.
And I think these are just basic enough that you can find a place for anything.
Yeah. And the plan is just so accessible. Like, you don't have to be a library board member or a librarian to read that and understand what the direction is. And that's the point. We want this so that anyone who reads it, anyone we talk to about it, it makes sense.
Yes.
So. Okay, so library stakeholders, so that is important to identify as we're trying to figure out what groups to approach or who to talk to. And so I just, wrote this big list. Obviously the library board and the library staff and friends of the library, adults, teens, children. We specifically pulled out seniors just because we know that that's in a population that they're heavy users of our library, and there's definitely targeted services and programming we do for them, so we want to be intentional about recognizing that.
That's an increasing number as we live longer.
It is. It is. The Muskego businesses / Chamber of Commerce, the school district, daycares, city staff, city council, our Bridges system staff, our neighboring libraries, and then nonprofit groups, both the ones that use our meeting rooms and the ones that don't.
Perfect.
Yeah, so those are people that I don't think we'd necessarily do a focus group for each of those because that would, but we want to make sure that we're thinking of these people's voices and we're approaching these different groups in whatever way we can. Okay, now comes the heavy blocks of text. And I don't think I need to read through all of this, but basically there are the types of data collection methods. I analyzed what you all did last time, and then I certainly thought about strategic plans in general. So there's community focus groups, and I know that focus groups were hard. It's hard to get people to come to focus groups. I know it was a challenge last time, and I know in general, I've talked to other libraries. Some of them have like raffle drawings for a restaurant gift certificate. Some of them have like donuts and coffee. If you're a corporate focus group, you can offer $25 Amazon gift cards to each person that attends, but we can't and shouldn't have to do that. So I recognize that the challenge will be getting people to commit to attend a focus group, but my mentor in the system has just finished her strategic planning process, and she said what worked really well, and this makes sense, is just really personal invitations. Like if I call you up specifically and say, hey Robin, I would really love, we have some focus groups coming up, is there a possibility you could attend one of these? And I've been collecting business cards of patrons that I talk to that happen to have business cards, and so they're sort of, they don't know it yet, but they're starting to build my potential contact list, and then obviously, I can talk to the school district, I can show up at community events, and my goal is to make some really targeted invitations to people so that we get those people to come. And patron testimonials. This is something I think that's just really important for us to capture. We may get some strategic planning ideas from it, but really they're just snapshots, kind of like shout-outs to the library. And mostly they're going to be positive, so again, it's not something we can really use to assess necessarily how we're doing. But I really want to start collecting these story moments, because it's really helpful for me as I'm talking to the council and I'm talking to people to advocate for funding if you have the voice of people like really recorded. So there's a couple of ways that I can do that, but since we're in the process of talking to people and collecting data, I want to be intentional about trying to collect that information as well for the library.
And here, going back to the community focus groups, you talked about maybe parent-teacher conferences, maybe even like during or after a PTO event.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a very good idea. Thank you. Yeah. How often does PTO meet?
Once a month.
Is it once a month? Oh, great.
In elementaries. I'm not sure about middle and high school.
Okay.
I was in the PTO system for God knows how many years. I'm pretty sure that middle school was once a month. I'm not sure what happens with the high school. I kind of.
Do they have a PTO for high school?
I'm not sure. I'm trying to go back, and it's been a while since I've had anybody in high school.
I hear about it.
They have booster clubs.
Booster club.
But
and
I know
stuff
that's
like
not the
that,
same thing, but they may be a
for
group I can
sports.
still
I would
get.
think that there is something, but it's definitely not as well known as elementary. Definitely is the huge target group there. But I know Baleen and Lake Danoon did have PTO.
Well, and certainly it'll be advantageous for me to talk to the high school administrators and sort of say, like, is there a group that you can identify that represents the high school community well, then I might be able to.
And Dr. Kelly, if you talk to Dr. Kelly too,
Yeah,
she's
that's true.
fabulous at
Student
communicating.
council,
Yeah.
community leadership,
Mm-hmm.
FBLA or whatever. They have so many
I
groups
know,
now.
it's amazing.
That's why they're all so busy.
Yeah,
Kids are in
apparently.
like 5 different things.
Yeah, and it's so great. I mean, my gosh, the things that they're learning and the skills, that's truly fantastic. When I think about what I did after school in high school, it's like, went home, watched Babylon 5, ate a snack. Like, it's a miracle I made anything of myself.
Oh, look at you now. You did fantastic. So
All thanks to science fiction programming. Thank you. Yep, I wrote those notes down. That PTO idea is really helpful. Community feedback boards. This is something we did at our library, and it was really helpful. You basically put up boards on an easel, and you ask a very simple question. And a lot of times it can be visual. So, do you like this furniture or this furniture? Or, what do you like about, or I don't know, something. Some type of really basic question. And then all they have to do is walk by and put stones in a jar under the thing they want to vote for, or move a Post-it note into a certain column. And it's passive. You don't have a lot of staff time involved, but it allows for really fast input. Maybe someone's not going to sit for a 30-minute focus group, but as they're walking by the reference desk or in the children's area or the teen area, they're gonna move stuff around, and it's just a quick poll, physical poll of gauging the wind in some instances. So
Hope you don't get those cheaters that take a handful and.
that is very true, and that may be why it'd be beneficial to have it near the reference desk or circulation to avoid.
So kids don't start playing with the rocks.
Yeah, that's true. If we make it too fun, then they'll want to move
Right.
it. It has to be something very uninteresting. Oh, that's
don't make
funny.
them pretty shiny
You can't get your
rocks.
books until you vote.
Right.
By the way.
Oh, that's funny. I would like to do some one-on-one patron interviews, especially with the people that maybe I can develop really, that I've talked to quite a bit. I like more drawn-out conversations. The thing about focus groups is that people can be influenced by the flow of the group. So sometimes it's helpful just to be able to sit down with someone and just say, hey, I just have a few questions about the library. And again, I can sort of intentionally pick people from sort of our various stakeholders. And so I don't know how many.
A couple. You might probably already have them on their list, but Bill and Maria Tess.
Yes,
Are they on your list?
they are. I don't have a business card, but I do have a Post-it note with their names on it. Yeah, they are fantastic.
Yeah, they use the library a lot and talk about it a lot.
I really enjoy speaking with them. But I'm going to make an extra note because it never hurts to have more than one reminder. So then we have our community survey, and this is something that you all did last time as well. And I did find the survey, and I looked at the questions, and I've made some modifications. But I also think having some of the questions remain the same might be interesting because, frankly, if we rated low 3 years ago and we're still rating low in that area, then it's definitely something we need to look at. But obviously it needs to be different enough so that if someone takes it twice, they go, I took this quiz
Right.
3 years ago.
Right.
Why are you asking me the same question?
Same questions, yeah.
So crafting that right now. The main challenge will be how to get it out there to people. So obviously we have our subscriber list, and we'll post it on the website, post it on Facebook. I know that Waukesha Public Library actually paid a very small amount of money to do a Facebook advertisement, and they got just an incredible result. It really made that survey visual, or visible, I should say.
Can you hand it out after programming?
Yep, can definitely do that. And I think we want to deliver some to the senior communities because if they're not, going to be engaging in the online survey, we want to make sure we still get their voice there.
Can you hand it to the schools?
That's a good question. I don't know how picky the schools are with, we could certainly hand it out to maybe staff, but I don't know if they have any strict policies about, I know the IRB at the university was very specific about surveying people and making sure that the survey doesn't damage, asking really damaging questions. So they were very, especially for younger audiences, like below 18. So I can certainly check with the school district and ask. I know we've talked about whether we can get things in folders to be sent home to kids.
We do it through our church.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
They gladly put that out there. They just put flyers in.
Mm-hmm.
That comes from a religious.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So yeah, there are stacks that we can push out to some of these stakeholder groups that we know we can get in touch with. I mean, the senior card players, they play every Tuesday. All I have to do is walk in there and say, "Cha, please do this." So yeah, I think there's a place for that physical. As well. And I did some math. I did more statistics than I ever thought I would do, so I should probably go thank my high school math teacher. But to get a 95% confidence rate in a survey with a 5% margin of error, we would need to get about 379 surveys back from people. So that's the minimum that I'm shooting for, to at least have statistically relevant data. Mm-hmm. But obviously the more we get, the better. So
maybe talking to the Muskego school district and how they're just sending a survey out to everyone, see how they do it, because they get a good response rate.
Do they?
Thousands.
Yeah. That's amazing, yeah. I will talk to them.
And they're just about to send one out this week or next week.
And, it's so helpful when you have a captive audience like that. I know that people are over-surveyed a lot now, and I know survey response rates are really hard to come by, so the fact that the school district is able to achieve that
is done all online.
Yeah, and we're definitely going to have an online survey. It will be... Yeah, so that's going to be great. We'll do a material usage analysis of our collection, which is just something we do on our own, not through patrons. And I just had some notes of things to consider, which is basically just whenever we are ultimately writing the report and creating these action items, they need to be measurable, because if they're not measurable, then how do we ever know if we've achieved them or not? So that's important. And non-users. So one of the questions you get a lot with strategic planning processes is, how do we get the quiet voice, the unsung voice? And that's certainly important, and that's why we have the stakeholder list, so that we can make sure we target a lot of different groups. But I got some interesting feedback from another library director who said that not to stress out too much about the non-users. They said, don't obviously avoid the non-users. Like if someone says, I never use the library, but I want to fill out the survey. Obviously, they should fill out the survey because they're going to give some interesting feedback. But they say don't go out of your way and waste 100% of your energy trying to find the non-users, because chances are whatever's in that survey is not going to necessarily make them a library user, at least not overnight. So they said there's a balance, and certainly don't avoid the non-users, but don't put so much of your energy that you're not able to devote it towards the users as well that you currently have. So that was an interesting. And Elka, I think you brought up this really good point of advertising the process in advance. Did you say that to me? Someone said it to me. It seems like something smart that you would say. Someone smart told me. I'm picturing your face. But about starting advertising the process in advance. So in January saying, hey, soon we will be, kind of like the pardon my dust construct. Exactly. So we'll make sure that we're advertising what we're doing and what's coming up. I think we were going to do bookmarks too with the survey link on it, so that when people are checking out, we can stuff the bookmark.
That's a good idea.
Okay, and so then there are some leftovers from the 2017-2019 strategic plan that are not going to be on the 2019 action plan, and that's mostly due to the funding deferral that I mentioned from the city. So there's no sense in putting in the 2019 action plan to add a self-check station if we're not at the point yet where we're revising the circulation area. Replace the carpeting through the library. Well, that's not going to happen until the new strategic plan, so that has to be moved. So I just wanted to acknowledge all of these things because they weren't on any of the action plans for the past 3 years, but I think they're still probably relevant. And so as we end up gathering data, we can see if any of these still jive, and certainly build them into our next strategic plan. I just didn't want them lost or dismissed necessarily. So, yeah, so that is the framework. So it's just like I said, a framework. So there's obviously lots of things to continue to think about, and we're excited to get started on this. But do you have any feedback for me? Any big stakeholders that I missed, or concerns about the timeline?
I think it all looks pretty precise.
And there's certainly an opportunity, because I will be presenting this to the full board in December, so there's definitely time to think. So if after today you're like, oh my gosh, Brittany completely forgot about X, or I'm really concerned that the timeline doesn't allow for this, it's certainly something that we can talk about.
And obviously Gail, she can copy or look at the packet by the email that was sent out. So if she has any information with her not being here, that she will pass on. And then if you want to let us know if she
absolutely
says anything.
Can it be sent to the whole board?
Yes.
They have a lot of time. Okay.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So let me think about that. You know what? I could put it in the agenda packet for November and just say, label it as discussion, and then when we get to that point, say we are not discussing this. I just want to let you know that I want you ample time to review it.
Right.
And we will talk about it in December.
This is what was discussed at the strategic planning committee.
Yep.
This is what was presented. Take some time to look at it.
Oh, that's a great idea. I will make a note. Make a note to do that. It's kind of crazy that we have 2 board meetings left for the year.
Oh, this year is just...
Okay, put in November packet for review and discussion in December. Excellent, thank you for that. All right. It's 12:08.
All right, so do I go on to communications and miscellaneous business as authorized by law?
Yes.
That's all good? All right, so then the adjournment, I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I don't have to do the all in favor, do I?
Technically, you should second it.
I'll second it. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
All right, so we are
We are
adjourned
adjourned.
at 12:09.
Perfect. Perfect timing. Perfect timing. Perfect timing. Perfect timing. Perfect timing.